stage and to be a part of this incredible community and the change that it's making. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nova. To those that are still with us, for those that have just joined us, we've already gotten started, and we only have a little bit more time to do this. Up next, we've assembled an incredible panel to extend further into the understanding of fashion, but more about humanity. Thank you for joining us. Tell a friend, send a message, send a thread, a tweet, a text.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
All right. Well, good morning to everyone, and I'd like to thank you for joining today's discussion as we discuss fabric of humanity, fashion rules, and societal change. And let's start off by doing a brief introduction. Let me just pick on someone. You know what? Love. I think we should start off with you.
Thank you. Hi, I'm happy to be here. My name is Ivania Easley. I'm the founder of Love E Fashion, Style by Love E. I am a certified personal stylist and published author, as well as a retail tech founder. I built a platform where you can order a personal stylist on demand, as well as I do 3D virtual reality fashion show activations.
Sounds good. Let's go to our left. My left, that'd be Jamie.
Hi, good morning. I am the founder of Pink October and Peachy Bottoms. Pink October is a digital stationery company, and Peachy Bottoms is our fashion line that includes custom sizing for all of our pieces. We're really excited to be here today.
Well, thank you. And Ricky?
Amazing. Stoked to be here with you guys. My background is mostly in helping small companies sell to big companies. So for the last, I started working mostly in photo and video production. And with that, there was a lot of luxury goods brands and helping kind of tell visual stories to customers. But for the last 3 years, it's been more focused on virtual world building and how do we create these immersive environments to engage our external audiences, improve our manufacturing processes around our products, and even onboard and train new employees. I also host the Moderator podcast, where I talk to mostly creatives and technologists about how we can lean into these emerging technologies like XR tech, AI, and blockchain technologies.
Okay, great. Well, as I mentioned, my name is Rose, and I am the GatherVerse director for Africa. And let's just dive right in because I think we have a lot of stuff that we could cover in this time. So let's start off with the question: how does fashion influence social change and vice versa? So who wants to take that question? Let me see. Ricky.
Yeah, I can jump right in there. So I think as far as the social relationship with fashion, it's really synergetic in both directions, right? So I think a lot of the time fashion is a reflection of our society, especially in high fashion, when we think of like runways and things that might not necessarily be designed for mass consumption. So you could think of something like Balenciaga with the flooded runway to comment on the importance of climate change, for example, and like how that's become a really big topic in society. And they're trying to tie that in almost as more of an art piece or a statement. But on the other side, you've got the day-to-day consumer where like the dad bods are super in right now. I know I personally am shaving off pounds from the COVID weight still. And you get these new types of t-shirts that are totally focused on that demographic. There's been a huge uptick in men's t-shirts that are just basic essentials of like whites and earth tones and professional kind of tees for day-to-day life. But a lot of their stories are talking about how do we fit that dad bod aesthetic and make you look your best in that particular style. So I think a lot of the time there's this balance between, do we want to make a big statement in like high fashion, or are we trying to engage with the day-to-day consumer? And there's kind of a reflection of society in both of those categories. I think you might be on mute, Rose.
Yes, thank you. So, Vaughn, you want to hop in a question? Want to add to that? Yep. The question originally was the influence of social change.
Were you asking me or Jamie?
I was asking you.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I didn't hear what she said. You didn't say love. I think you said Ivania, right? Okay. No,
Yes.
repeat the question one more time, please, so I can answer it.
Oh, the question I was piggybacking off of what Ricky had said about how fashions influence social change. And as he mentioned, was interesting, the dad bods, right?
Yeah.
Really cute.
No, I think, of course, like he was saying, that our environment, obviously, whether it's high fashion or just the everyday consumer, we're influenced a lot by the influencers that we see on social media, the major designers, as well as the retailers. So, of course, what happens affects what we wear. Even if you go far as back in the day, Diddy had that vote for change or vote or die t-shirt or whatnot. That was influencing the political, climate at the time, but using fashion, music, art, and culture to bring the regular consumers involved outside of the fashion industry in itself. Like, we're a part of the fashion industry as professionals, but we are catering to a lot of consumers that are not in the industry. They just, buy clothes because they have to wear clothes, or they're interested in fashion, but they're not involved from a in-depth perspective. So I think we can dictate a lot of change by what we put out there as people in the fashion industry and in the professional designers, runway shows, all of the things. Even Pharrell with the Louis Vuitton show, with him being the new creative director, a lot of that, he's not obviously somebody that trained at one of the major fashion schools of the world, but they still hired him as a director. He had a great menswear show that really influenced, fashion, art, culture, and bringing a bunch of different components together as far as being relatable to consumers.
You bring up a great point, because you do have those who do go to fashion design school, and then now you have people who don't. That wasn't originally their career path, but they kind of fell into it, being that they're an artist and an influencer. Any thoughts on that? I mean, Steph, anyone can pick that question up. Jamie, what do you think?
Yeah. I personally did go to a fashion school. I went to FATHOM, but I got a graphic design degree. And I have taken that education and pivoted it towards writing fashion articles and blogs, and now with like the Peachy Bottoms line. And there is definitely a big shift in between like my fellow like peers that did go to fashion school for their fashion degree. And, just to be a little personal, I felt really behind the curve because they knew how to do a lot of things that I just don't. And I'm having to self-teach on YouTube and read books and do things like that just to get like the manufacturing part of like creating a line down. So I definitely feel like, some of the disconnect, but I also feel that fashion comes from a lot of different walks of life. And just like Pharrell, you don't have to have a fashion degree to be fashionable. Like, for instance, like Sarah Jessica Parker, I don't think she went to fashion school, and she is a fashion icon. Same with Rihanna with Fenty Beauty and her savage, like women's slash menswear. Like, I'm really seeing a big shift in people taking their art forms and not being restricted by having the degree. And I'm really enjoying that.
Just to double click on that a little bit, and sorry if I'm messing with your flow, Rose, but it's I think there's a lot of value in that idea of creators producing products, right? Like we're seeing this huge trend with like Mr. Beast and Feastables or Logan Paul with Prime. It's like these people that have developed a brand that resonates with an audience are starting to develop products as a new form of monetization. And we've seen that in the music industry forever. Like most music artists make a very tiny portion of their revenue from streaming, very, very small portion from maybe ticket sales and concerts, but then merch and building a brand is where they really make their money. I think when I was younger, I thought that a lot of that merch was like, yeah, whatever, it's just a t-shirt. But then I started thinking about it. I'm like, wait, I love repping my favorite band tees. I love wearing that brand when I go out because it gives a like reason to start a conversation. It shows people what I'm about. So like one of my favorite shirts, this was like basically my Friday uniform for a long time, was my Blonded t-shirt for repping Frank Ocean, because I knew that Frank Ocean has this like niche audience where if someone compliments that shirt, if someone calls it out and knows what it is, those are my people. And that's a conversation I want to lean into and be like, wait, you know Blonded? So you mess with Frank. Okay, have you seen Endless? And like it just starts this whole conversation that becomes interesting. And that might open other doors to other pieces of their culture that they're into. And so I kind of took that 3 different directions, but I think that idea of you don't need to be a fashion designer at heart to create good fashion that resonates with people.
Yeah, you do bring up a great point. And that moves us on to the next question, which is how can fashion be used as a platform to raise awareness and also various social issues? Because it seems like it goes beyond fashion and people are actually researching and saying, how is it being made? Where is it being made? Is it tied to, sweatshops and labor? Anyone want to take that on? Let me see here. Let's go to Ricky. I'm going to pick you randomly.
Sure thing. Happy to jump right in. So I think when it comes to this idea of like fashion activism, for example, like that's a whole like vertical in itself. Is this it's a whole form of activism, is leveraging fashion. And if you think about what fashion is, it's just a medium of art. Art is expression. Fashion is just a choice of medium. Some people use a canvas, other people use cloth and stitching. And I think that when people think of this, the first thing that might come to mind is like AOC with her Tax the Rich dress, right? And like there's this ability to kind of create a lot of awareness over just like putting a message on a piece or like having a platform, because fashion has these events that get a lot of eyeballs and get a lot of people looking at it. There's other things, like if you look back to the civil rights movement, like the Black Panthers with their berets and the black kind of consistent clothing creates a cohesive message where people start to see, oh, you're a part of this group. We know who you are. We know what you're about. We know what you represent. And that starts to make the message louder. It makes it easier for people to get clarity over the message that group is trying to get across when they have that kind of uniform, cohesive look and feel to them. I think that you mentioned a good point on like eco, like manufacturing and how people care more about that. I think that's a big thing in fashion that's difficult to balance, is like they have this platform, they have this amazing ability to express a message or a feeling, but the next phase of that is like, okay, how much is awareness the most important piece? We can drive so much awareness, we can keep shouting into an abyss, but at a certain point, some of these issues are so heard of already. Like climate change is one of those things that like everybody knows about it, and they've developed some sort of stance on if they're going to fully invest their time and be active about it, or if they don't care as much and they'll be inactive about it. Awareness isn't the solution anymore. Kids throwing tomato soup at a Van Gogh painting isn't helping the situation. Like that doesn't do anything. Where brands can start to make a difference and I think have like a real impact is by speaking or practicing what they preach a little bit more. So if you're going to talk about being eco-friendly, the reality is the events and like carbon emissions for an event is a tiny sliver of the pie chart. Like you need to start thinking more about the manufacturing process. How can we streamline that and make it more effective? How do we use 3D models to take us further down the chain so we're producing less and less samples that just get wasted? And then by the time we're actually producing physical samples, they're actually going to get put in the market. They're actually going to get used. Like that's the type of stuff that I think big brands can focus on. So designers can keep on kind of expressing and saying a message with the art and how they put on a show or the piece, but big brands need to focus more on like actually delivering on those messages in the behind the scenes part of their process.
Right. I'm going to kind of take us back in time a little bit with the Cosby Show, right? And how they were promoting the Black colleges. I remember just seeing the sweaters. I'm like, I don't know where I want to go, but I want to go to a historically Black college, even though they wasn't outright saying it, but it was just the sweatshirts and just putting it out there. And it's that sense of pride and wanting to actually further my education. And that was just by just watching and not realizing that I was actually being influenced about just, just that pride and just wanting to get educated because that's what they were promoting. And I just think about that and raising awareness as far as education and seeing kind of that it's deviated a little bit in terms of that, just because you don't really see it out there. But like cross colors, think about cross colors, right? And they were coming out with those different, it was just this whole movement. And now that I think back and reflect on it, how much fashion did shape what I wanted to align myself with. So I guess we could go. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to throw in one little point as well. I think now too, with everything being a lot more transparent because of social media, Twitter, etc., like with everything that happened after the pandemic and the riots and all the things, a lot of companies, like the one designer, Aurora James, she created the 15% pledge, and a lot of companies and a lot of even my friends were able to be selected at Nordstrom's and Bloomingdale's and have these opportunities to actually work with big corporations that signed up to be like, hey, we're going to make sure that we have a certain amount, which was 15% of women and people of color on our shelves and in our stores. I even was able to do an activation with Bloomingdale's earlier this year. They were a sponsor for my Metaverse show. I have friends selling at Nordstrom's and TJX. So I think with it being more transparent, the industry being more transparent is having the bigger companies be more accountable to the consumers. And even like if you go and shop on Nordstrom's now, certain brands, they'll say it's Black owned or women owned, so that you can see and know who you're supporting, and being able to make sure that it's being more equally distributed and fair to everyone and not just the same old people that they're designers or the same old that they're putting in the stores. So that's what I wanted to add to that question.
I definitely appreciate that trend, that transparency. And it's like telling the story now. That's what's important, I see, with the consumers. As far as like, how did you get here? What was your purpose and what are you standing for? So that goes, let's go into what role do fashion designers play in shaping societal values? All right,
I
Jamie.
can take that one. I think that fashion designers hold a pretty hefty responsibility when it comes to changing societal values and norms, specifically with size discrimination. And again, gonna get a little vulnerable here, but I'm currently a size 16, and I could have all the money in the world, and I could not walk into any like ready-made high-end fashion store right now and purchase something because they simply don't sell my size. And there have been companies that have made billion-dollar industries off of just selling plus-size fashion. So the resources are there. And for some reason, big brands just don't seem to want to take that leap into making a size-inclusive brand. And I think that you can even bring that home a little further because representation definitely matters for size. There have been a huge spike in depression and eating disorders among our youth because of this sense that only skinny people are sexy and only skinny people get to wear pretty high-end clothes. And so if you want to fit in these clothes, you've got to change everything about yourself to fit our norm, as like, the brand saying like our norm, what we find beautiful. And I think that that's really damaging for the youth's mental health. And I think that fashion designers, myself included, really should take more responsibility in making this change. I mean, most of the time I can't even shop at Target, like let alone walk into somewhere like Versace or Dior, Prada, any of these places. And they're sending a message, and the message is clear. And I think that we as consumers and we as fellow designers should respond back to that message, because I think it's very damaging.
Yes, I think we could definitely see when it comes to image, the BBLs, no matter how dangerous they say it is, being really shapely. And yeah, you do have full figure, but you have this very size 2, 3, 4, waist, cinched waist, and everything is just inflated in terms of your, breast augmentation. And it's definitely more pressure, or an additional type of pressure. If you're not really, really slim, fashion high end, then you have very shapely, it's there's pressure there too, as well, because I see some of these outfits and my waist is not a size 2. I don't even think it's ever been a size 2 growing up, right? And so I definitely see the pressure there.
Yeah, I feel like designers also, especially like high-end designers, have a responsibility to take some risks, right? So like even that topic on body size and shape, it's like the industry has these ingrained cultural associations to how they do things and the status quo. And if you're a high-end designer, we talked about this earlier, like you have a platform, you have an audience of people that look up to you and care about the things that you do. And sometimes it'll flop and sometimes it'll be incredibly successful. But when you have that platform, I think you have a responsibility to push the boundaries a little bit and try new things. Kind of on a separate example of that, but like look at Air Jordans, right? Like the movie Air just came out. They really highlighted this and that. Is the idea that you couldn't even have colors on shoes in the NBA for a while. Like they were very muted, mostly just straight up white and black neutral colors. And they were like, let's take a risk with this shoe. Let's actually pay the fees to go ahead and put red all over it and make it flashy, make it exciting. And now basketball shoes are known for being flashy and exciting and taking on interesting architecture and like not looking like this basic Converse, right? And that wouldn't have happened if you didn't have an apparel brand take a risk and be able to handle those consequences. And be able to stretch that boundary. Is it always going to work out? No. But I think if you're in that position of power in the industry, then you need to be taking some of those bets because you're going to be able to survive them. And a young company or a young designer is going to struggle a lot more to be in a position to take those type of risks.
Yeah, definitely agree with all of that. I am a personal stylist outside of doing the activations, and I have clients up to a 22. So I definitely understand about finding great items. And you're right, even when I would go and shop for them at the retail brands, especially after the pandemic, they were saying, hey, you have to shop for that online. We actually are not selling anything above a size 14 in the actual store. So if you needed it immediately, you were SOL because you had to wait for it to be ordered and sent to your home. What I found though was shopping with independent. I love to shop with women-owned brands anyway, and especially women of color, and finding independent brands that were catering to size inclusive and buying my clients' clothes from them instead of focusing on buying from the big retailers. But in the same breath, if you do want high end, you could only buy accessories because they're not going to make it in your size, unless of course you're a celebrity and you go to the house directly and they custom make something for you. So definitely feel like fashion has to, at least big retailers and designers have to step up as far as being inclusive, which is why Savage Fenty and Lizzo and some of those different brands have been so successful because they are being size inclusive, especially Savage Fenty. Even though she's making more lingerie, she stepped into the sportswear side as well because the average woman in America is a size 16. So it's kind of like a no-brainer of why would you not be more inclusive when the size in America is that size. Now, again, high-end brands, most of them are not based in America, so that might be part of it as well. But just thinking about where you want to shop and spend your money and who you want to support. And so in support of the clients that I do service, I'm making sure that I'm supporting women-owned, plus size and curvy size designers to make sure they have items that they can wear and feel confident and feel good in, and not feel like, oh, I can't dress a certain way because I'm not a size 2.
Bring up a point, even when it comes to Venti and just seeing the difference between what where everyone's kind of shifting towards, because remember we have Victoria's Secret, you had the top models, you had Yasmin with very, very long legs, and you had Tyra Banks, and we could just kind of go on the whole Angel campaign. And when you go onto Rihanna's website, I mean, they have all shapes, all sizes, and it's very inclusive. Don't feel as intimidated. And it's nice to see the same lingerie on different size women. And even with the men, and it's gender neutral. So it's like she's really captured the audience, and you could see where it's gotten Victoria's Secret as opposed to her brand. So we are speaking up when it comes to that through our dollars, right? So let's look at digital. Let's make that transition to digital technology, how it's influenced fashionability on social change. Now we have these avatars, and hey, you get to dress them up and dress them cute. You get to even pay for them to have this certain outfit. Anyone want to add to that?
I can jump in. So there's kind of two ways I think digital has made a huge impact. The first is it's just throwing gas on the fire, right? Like the last 20 years of digital, it really hasn't been that different from print. If you think about like a brochure or a magazine or like a postcard, that's basically what the internet's been for the last 20 years. The only difference is that it's accessible to a wider audience because anyone can go to your website and access that brochure. Or it's highly targeted with a social media ad where that postcard's not just getting sent to addresses. There's more data, there's more tracking. But as far as the engagement, the look and feel of it hasn't really changed that much. So I think that's the last phase we've seen of digital kind of making an impact. But the next phase is where it starts to get really exciting, because now we're living on these digital channels, and gaming has become a social environment. People are looking at each other's PFPs on social media more than they are their actual faces in person. Like, you have maybe 5% of your network that you hang out with in person more than you do online. And then there's so many other people, the majority of them, that are just seeing your digital presence. So now there's this opportunity with advancements in Unreal and Unity and the ability to create these digital assets to have a whole new way of engaging with your customer. Like now they have a new environment to where you don't have human physics anymore limiting your capabilities. You can make any shade of any color. You could dress up as a dragon if you want to. There's no weight limits if you want to carry a sword and a shield around. Like there's so many creative things that a lot of it's going to look terrible. A lot of it's not going to be great, but we're in such a fun time to be experimenting with that new medium. And I think that that's still fashion, whether it's on an avatar or an AR filter or whatever you choose to do. But it's just this whole new opportunity for brands to start experimenting.
I just wanted to piggyback off of that a little bit. In the fashion reporting space, Vogue.com is putting out at minimum 10 articles a day from freelance writers. The digital era is really opening the door for a lot more creatives to join the space. And it's really opening the door for people to purchase fashion from anywhere. You could hop online and buy a dress from around the world. So your geographic location is no longer a prohibitor or a limiter. And I also think of the movie The Devil Wears Prada, and in that movie, these fashion shows, they were very coveted invitations. They were secrets. Like you don't want anyone to see next month's or next year's launch, because like they'll see it when they see it, but VIPs get like early access. And now with technology and social media, you get to see all of Fashion Week from your phone and you don't have to feel left out. I'm really loving the inclusion of these major fashion events. And I mean, even Savage Fenty, she broadcasts her fashion show on Amazon Prime, so everyone can see it. And I am loving how more people can be involved, more people can add their opinions. And so it's really becoming a place of free speech and being able to just keep diversifying and keep adding and keep changing the world around us.
I can say that I appreciate influencers. And I said what has changed for me since COVID is I was a person who felt like I had to touch it, right? I want to see what it looks like. I want to try it on, even though I hated shopping, but I wanted to try it on. And I see these influencers and they're creating this lifestyle. And, I could care less what they're saying. I'm like, where did you get that? And now seeing that they're posting it, this is where you can get it. I even Amazon's getting in on it. They're having their own fashion boutiques through Amazon. And just seeing how that much is shifting, and then we're seeing the brick and mortars just closing down. And I'm hoping it doesn't completely go, online, because I do want to walk down the street, get it, and go, right? But I also I'm become very much so a homebody and has appreciated being able to get deliveries. And also like, hey, you know what? I want that and I can get it. So I do appreciate, and hats off to a lot of these influencers. At first I give them the side eye, like, but I've completely bought in.
Well, that's the other cool thing of like digital is like this idea of, I love what Jamie was saying about accessibility. The fact that it's so much more open for people to participate now. And part of what I think really enables that is like digital communities. Like there's Reddit threads, there's forums, there's all these opportunities to go find other like-minded people. Like it's a music example, but Brockhampton started out of like a Kanye West fan chat. Like it was just a bunch of musicians that met online that all liked the same type of music. And then they became one of the most successful music groups for the last few years, right? And so that idea of accessibility, I think, is super, super powerful.
So, trying to go into a little bit of the politics part of it. So how do you intersect that fashion with politics and activism? Kind of goes back to the statement t-shirts. Remember Rock the Vote? They had that shirt that says the big check mark, get out and vote, making a political statement in that campaign, the importance of us voting. I also even look at with Issa, right? She always had those sweatshirts, very simple, but it had a very loud message. Those types of things. Anyone want to take on the political part of it or activism?
I mean, I think everyone probably thinks of those interesting red hats that were floating around when I think of fashion and politics and where that intersects. I think that it's definitely been used as an identifier, and both in the positives and in the negatives. We are using fashion now more than ever to voice our opinions. Do we want to show off our likes, our dislikes, our passions, our dreams, all of those things? And I also think that by doing that, that is directly related to technology and the spike in cancel culture. It was like one bad like or one bad comment by a brand or an influencer, and it's like it all goes up in flames. Or it takes one journalist to just ask the right question and a brand can go up in flames. And we've seen that very recently with Shein and the way that they had their influencers travel to China and they wanted to do this big PR video and try to make it seem like Shein was doing the right thing. And, you know, everyone just got these videos back from around the world that were just painted in such like a beautiful light. But then people went undercover and went back to these factories, and it was like, it's really not like that. And I think that like that is a really important part of activism, is knowing where your clothes are coming from, knowing who you're representing, and even taking a bit of like a deeper dive and seeing like these brands that you love to support, what is their social presence like? Who are they following? Who are they liking? Who are they supporting? Because by supporting them, you are inadvertently supporting the people that they support. And that can be both a positive and a negative. But I'm really loving the way that we're using fashion to express ourselves. It's very much giving like 1700s, like French like monarchy, where they used to dress exactly like the people that they loved, and they were putting like, you know, the boats in their hair and just being like very expressive. And that's where I see us with fashion right now. It's very enjoyable.
I still can't do the surf shoes. I don't know. Was
My
anyone
roommate-
tempted to buy those?
My roommate got a pair. Are you talking about the big red Misfits
Yes.
shoes? Yeah, he just flipped them. He didn't keep them, but I've got this great photo of it on his head like a hat.
So how long did it take for him to get into the shoes?
You know, I don't even know if he actually tried them on, because he was trying to sell them, so I don't think he wanted to accidentally scuff them up or anything. But that's actually another area of digital that's funny, is like resale culture, like the ability to access and tap into this whole resale secondary market is like a whole new stream for fashion. Like Supreme was entirely built on the secondary market, right? And now we're starting to see brands be able to tap into that on their own a little bit. In the resale market, like double, triple X is the value of some of these. But Misfits, I actually think, is a great example. I'm glad you brought up those shoes, because when you think about politics or making a statement, what an amazing brand to follow. I don't know if the listeners are super big in this. If they follow fashion, they probably are. But that idea of just doing ridiculous things for the sake of doing something totally different and drawing attention to that idea or that concept, so cool. Like that's a rabbit hole in itself that everybody should spend a couple hours diving into.
All right, we are kind of wrapping it up, but I do want to give everyone a chance to what they want to promote out there, whatever message you want to send, what you're seeing trending, any advice. This is your time. All right. I feel like I have to call like a class. Like, who do I call on? Who looks excited? Drum roll. Jamie. Ricky.
I was gonna say I'll go first, because whoever goes last will be more memorable. I'd rather give the final word to the folks that are actually deeper in the fashion space. So super short. I'll follow me on LinkedIn, Ricky Hauk. Check out the Moderator podcast. New episode just came out this morning, all talking about this sort of stuff. But I'll keep it super short. Give it over to these amazing ladies that are way more into fashion and better for y'all to follow.
You're holding your own, Ricky. You're holding your own.
I guess I'll
Representing
go.
the odds
I was
and
going to
they're
say,
out there,
Jamie,
right?
did you want to go next, or?
I can. You can be the memorable one. You can go last.
No, that wasn't it. I was just like, did you want to go, or should I go ahead and go since I unmuted my mic? I didn't know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, so please follow us on Instagram at Pink October Co. We are launching our blog soon. Peachy Bottoms will be launching soon. Again, we are still trying to figure out the mechanical aspects of ordering clothes, but hopefully we will be launching very soon. And thank you guys for allowing me the chance to share the stage with you. I've had a lot of fun.
Ditto. I would say the same thing. I'm definitely going to follow you, all three of you, after this is over. I've enjoyed having this panel discussion with y'all. I think what I want to just leave everyone with is that whether you're in the fashion industry or not, style and personal style is a self-expression of how you want to show up in the world, how you feel about yourself, how other people react to you as a personal stylist, which is where I started as in the fashion industry and been able to use that to pivot into so many different areas. But it was all about, dressing well and making yourself feel good, as well as making sure people react to how you showed up, whether that be in the big red shoes or wearing something that just speaks to who you are as a person and your personality, etc. So just being intentional, using style as a self-expression is what I would say. And then what I do love about what we're doing in tech and fashion is, for me, marrying the technology with the human touch. So I do these metaverse shows, but we do them in person. So you come in and you get to see it through 3D using the VR headsets. And after you take the headset off, everything you saw in the headset is now available in the next room to purchase. So that way we're supporting the designers right there immediately. You can get that instant gratification, but you're also getting an experience through the activation beyond just a pop-up sip and shop or a traditional runway show. So being able to use that and partner with corporations and big brands to expose their clientele to technology in a relatable way, because not everybody's into the gaming or even have used the VR headset or in the metaverse, but being able to do it in a way that just makes sense, as well as makes sense for the business from a business perspective, as well as a creative angle. So that's what it's about for me.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank y'all again. I really appreciate it.
I just want to leave with this. What I love about fashion is that you're making a statement without making a statement, right? So I want to thank you, Vanya, Jamie, Ricky,